To every one of you who said, "Loyal, relax, this tech doesn't exist," or even, "You can't realistically implement STL bands or G-code bands on a 3D printer," or "They can't moderate shapes in the real world." Well, get ready for this, because the exact thing that people claimed was impossible is now being marketed openly as a real product. A system designed to detect restricted shapes before they print, during the print, and even at the firmware level, so the machine can refuse the job even if it's offline. And it's not staying in a blog comment section, it's already being floated directly to major printer manufacturers as a common sense safeguard. If you are a maker, a creator, or you run a small business that depends on printing parts, this isn't about one controversial category, this is about the future of your tools. There is a letter from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to Creality, and we've heard others, requesting a meeting to discuss implementing common sense safeguards into 3D printers, including Print&Go's 3D Gunt software. So this isn't just a company dreaming up a product, this is public officials nudging manufacturers toward a future where printers ship with a built-in enforcement. And that's the inflection point, because an optional tool for a school lab is one thing, a default requirement baked into consumer printers is something entirely different. I am in the middle of editing and this thought hit me. We need everyone in the 3D printing industry to know exactly who this company is and how much they are screwing us. This company literally is selling us out. And my script is very reserved and it's very controlled. There are things I want to say, but we will save that for another video in the short future. Let's let people know who this company is and what exactly they're doing to our industry. And so in order to do that, the best way that you can help, watch the video all the way to the end and hit that like button. That tells the YouTube algorithm that it's important. All right, thanks. Back to the video. Print&Go's own description of how this works is the real story. They're not talking about one simple block list. They describe a layered system that tries to catch restricted shapes at multiple stages. They talk about scanning design files before printing, comparing them to a large library, flagging prints as suspicious, and blocking them. They even mention people trying to move files by USB, meaning the system is built on the assumption that the user is adversarial. Then they describe the AI-driven detection that can identify similar, modified, or newly remixed files based on geometry, not a this exact file similarity, resemblance, and pattern matching. But the part that truly changes the relationship between you and your machine is what they call complete print traceability. They describe keeping a record of what was printed, who printed it, and even where they were when it was printed. That's not a simple safety feature, that's an audit trail tied to a person. Huge overreach of privacy. And the moment you build that kind of logging into a workflow tool, you've created something bigger than any single policy. You've created a mechanism that can be searched, it can be monitored, exported, demanded, or abused. Even if you trust today's intent, you cannot guarantee tomorrow's use. They're going to get you. Then they describe firmware level enforcement, meaning the block can exist inside the printer itself. A lot of people commented over the last couple weeks saying it's just not possible. Well, they claim that they have agreements with manufacturers where printers ship with their system integrated, so that even if someone disconnects their printer from the internet, it can still refuse prints that trigger the restriction. This is the moment it stops being software and it becomes governance. Because if the enforcement lives in your firmware, it's not just a setting that you toggle on and off. It's not just a service that you don't subscribe to. It is a rule baked into the tool. That's the same direction that we've seen other industries go. Your hardware becomes a controlled endpoint, and the owner becomes just a user with permissions. They also pitch real-time camera monitoring as another layer, detecting restricted objects as they're being printed. So that means if their early scans miss it, the AI camera will pick it up. And this is the part where people need to stop thinking about the original headline category and start thinking about what a camera plus shape detection really means once it's normalized. Because today it is sold to you as public safety, tomorrow it can be sold as brand protection. Imagine the next pitch deck. A rights holder doesn't want you printing copyrighted shapes, licensed designs, branded parts, character likenesses, car logos, aftermarket components, controller shells, collectibles, whatever. Now you've got the same enforcement stack, except it's not being used to stop a crime, it's being used to stop competition and control creativity. If you think companies like John Deere, Disney, or Nintendo aren't going to be interested in a world where your printer can automatically recognize and block objects that resemble their IP or their products, you're not paying attention to how aggressively big brands defend control when the tooling exists. Now, here's where we shift away from the original category, because that's not the point of this video. The point is, once you normalize shape-based enforcement inside consumer fabrication tools, the list of block categories can expand forever. And it won't just hit hobbyists. It will hit creators who make props and replicas, small businesses printing custom parts, repair shops making brackets or housings, clips, adapters, jigs, forms, engineering prototyping mechanisms, students learning CAD, Etsy sellers making custom accessories, cosplayers, automotive folks, drone builders, tool makers, literally the list goes on and on and on. Anybody who makes anything even remotely adjacent to restricted category or even just geometrically similar, because the machine isn't judging intent, it's judging the shape. And this is where it becomes a real economic and creative problem. If your workflow software is scanning your files and the decision to allow your print is being made by a classifier, then you've introduced a new failure mode into manufacturing. Your printer can just refuse legitimate work. Your customer deadlines can literally be blown up by a false positive. Your print farm can be disrupted because one job got flagged and there's no printing. Your R&D can be slowed down because you literally can't iterate freely. And if your system is logging who printed what, you can also create liability landmines, data exposure risks, and a chilling effect where people stop experimenting because they don't want their work cataloged. Now, this company is not American. It's in Spain. Are you really interested in sending your inventions, your ideas, your projects outside to a third-party company in a foreign country? I'm not. This is a direct hit to innovation. This is also exactly how compliance creep happens. It starts with a single headline category. It's the firearms. Then it becomes regulated components. Then it becomes anything that could be misused. Then it becomes, we received a request, we've updated our policy, and we've expanded detection, and we've improved compliance. You know that's how it's going to end up. And if you think that that sounds dramatic, look at how platform moderation has evolved online. It never stayed narrow. It never stayed transparent. It never stayed optional. It just got bigger. When you move that mentality into physical manufacturing, you're importing the worst parts of the internet into the real world. And then the question becomes simple. Do you want the future of making to look like the future of smartphones, locked down, permissioned, monitored, and updated into new restrictions? Or do we want it to look like a workshop owned by the person using it? And that's why all of this matters, not because of one controversial category. Because once the infrastructure exists, it becomes a lever, usable by governments, manufacturers, insurers, platforms, and whoever else can apply pressure. And the people who will feel it first aren't the criminals. It'll be makers, creators, students, small businesses, people just trying to design, print, ship, and build. Then I want you to tell me, would you buy a 3D printer that can refuse prints based on similarity? Would you run a business on a system that logs who printed what and where and sends it outside your company? Would you accept firmware level rules that you can't remove? Because if we don't push back on the precedent now, the rest is easy. Because after that, it's just software updates. I'll link the sources so you can actually read the claims directly. The DA letter referencing Print&Go's 3D Gunt and Print&Go's own description with their website. I'll have that in the description. And before I go, pay attention. If this video made your stomach turn a little bit, good, because it should have, because this is just one piece of where this is heading. I'm already working on the next video about the state of 3D printing in 2026, and I want you to brace for what's coming next. Legislation in progress where you're going to need an ID to buy a 3D printer. You won't be able to order one online anymore. You're going to be forced to buy it in person, and there's a 15-day waiting period like you're buying a firearm. I am not kidding. So make sure you're subscribed and maybe you have those notifications turned on so you'll know when it goes live. I know it sounds extreme, but here's where we are.